absolutely happy to. Thanks, Bodo, Craig, Terence. Really appreciate it. And for those who may not know me, I'm Austin Klinghagen. I'm with the Northern Texas section. I'm the Director of Business and Section Operations. Had a chance to be working with Tagmarshal and their team for the last 4 years, and they've been fantastic supporters of our section. And having spoken with a handful of the facilities that utilize their tech and work with their team, have nothing but great things to say about them. And yeah, really happy to be a part of this, and always stay up to date with the technology and services that they continue to grow. And appreciate y'all's support, and look forward to a good morning.
Thanks, Austin. Yeah, pleasure to be partnering with you. Great to see you again. As much as they all love you and us, they want to know about PDR credits. So we're gonna have to give them the housekeeping on that.
Yes, yeah. Well, everybody that's registered within our section with your respective sections, those will all be submitted, and so PDRs are approved here.
Brilliant. Thanks, Austin. I've got some exciting news in that one of the courses that you have in walking distance is going to get Tagmarshal in
Straight out
implemented. Yes.
Fantastic. That is,
Yes.
yeah, that is great news. Congrats. Yeah, 36 holes, and they need it, and probably great with the clip-ons with their walking course and
That's
the
it.
ability to do
Yeah.
that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, just we're excited that we get to add value into a season where you're hosting a major. So that's good timing.
Yes, very much so.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, my name is Bodo Sieber, CEO of Tagmarshal, and I'm joined by my lifelong friend Craig Kleu and my co-founder and COO. Greg, how are you this morning?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, very, very good. Excited to contribute. Thanks for the intro. Hopefully, we can stay friends as long as you want us to.
As long as you play quickly, we'll be good. Thank you. And delighted to have Terence Thornton from our customer success team. Terence is based out of Louisville in Kentucky, the center of the universe, apparently. Was sold recently.
Right.
We'll do introductions just now. Yeah, our title for today and what you're all dialing into is to learn more about optimization tech and T-sheets. And we want to show you 3 ways to add capacity and material revenue. So some of the outcomes of today is a better understanding of how you can turn pace of play into an asset at your course, and how to dial and dig into the data so that you can get more tee times out of your inventory, and then some important considerations on how to make dynamic pricing work in the day-to-day when it comes to serving up the highest quality rounds that you can serve up, right? So those are some of the takeaways. And before we get going, Terence, there's obviously a reason that you're on as a product specialist. I want you to give us 2 minutes on your journey in golf. You've been in the seat of most of our guests today, and the role that you play for Tagmarshal.
Sure. Thanks, Bodo. I'll keep it to 2 minutes. Appreciate the pace information there. Like Bodo said, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and have most of my golf experience in that city as well. I do work with a few of the courses here, notably Valhalla, Hurstburn, and a few others. Coming from one of the courses that currently partners with us, I was an operator there, golf professional, learned how to use the system there and use it effectively, and decided to come over to Tagmarshal to hopefully help other operators like yourself. My region or regions include 3 of the sections here sponsoring this webinar: Tennessee, Kentucky, and Northern Texas. So please reach out if you have any questions for me or would like any information on anything. But yeah, excited to be here. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me, Bodo.
Absolutely. And I think it's quite fitting that Terence is joining with, he's one of a team of about 8 that we have deployed into various regions. And the goal of our customer success team is to help our operators be successful and get the most out of the program. And that when it comes to strategies, digging into the system, digging into the data, they've just been there and done it dozens of times. And also, obviously, fantastic that many of them are PGA pros themselves. They know what it's like to run an operation and sort of best of both worlds scenario. Yeah, Mr. Data himself for Tagmarshal is Craig, so I'm delighted to have him on. A lot of the systems logic and how things work has come from yeah, rigorous testing that he's done with our development team and over many years. And he's a passionate golfer. And the genesis moment of Tagmarshal happened in a slow round of golf, and he was not the cause, but he had a lot of time to think about how things could be better. So let me give you a quick introduction for those who don't know us. We golf course optimization technology. You can find us at 50 of the top 100 courses now. It's an amazing list of golf courses that you cannot play a tour to Ireland or Scotland without being tracked by Tagmarshal. And yeah, more recently, her Royal Portrush was on the big screen. Well done, Scotty Scheffler. And yeah, Terence mentioned Valhalla, Pinehurst, long-term partners of ours, Erin Hills, long-term partners of ours. And for us, it's obviously fantastic to have such great course partners, mostly also to learn from, right? Because we do acknowledge the best in the business, all the way to the old course at St. Andrews, also the oldest in the business. But the majority of our partners really like the daily fee course down the road or the good private club down the road, and they're all solving the same problem, right? So for us, it's about creating a system that keeps evolving and keeps answering the industry's challenges. And one of the key currencies for us that makes us better is data. And we now have tracked 75 million rounds. And a busy season for us will see us track around 20 million rounds now. So there's lots of data coming in, and that has our team very excited. And you can imagine this machine learning and AI opportunities that we are digging into that will make the opportunities even bigger and the system even smarter. And then we also work with some of the tours. Craig, tell us about the Ladies Open and what Tagmarshal's done there just this last weekend.
Yeah, it's our second year tracking the Ladies British Open, the AIG. Very proud to be associated with them. We were there last year running a pilot, which they loved so much they sort of immediately asked us back to do this year. As you know, tours are currently grappling with how to manage pace of play, and I think being able to give them the types of data that we collect has really helped. It's helping them frame their approach, and yeah, we're very privileged to be part of that conversation. So another exciting weekend, this past one gone by, and yeah, looking forward to what that holds for not only the tours in the future, but us as partners who like to learn from the best.
4 hour rounds at that major, is that right?
Correct. That's
Love it.
When you've got 2 balls, there shouldn't be any reason why you shouldn't be.
Yes, that too. But yeah, you first have to do it, right? Okay,
Exactly.
so let's jump straight into it. Our first section, remember we want to show you 3 ways. Our first section we want to talk to is revenue opportunities created by proactive pace management. And the image that our team has chosen is the concession, which is one of our awesome partner courses. Just a quick dig into some of the research that's come from the USGA. They're obviously custodians of the game and doing a lot of research and surveying, and they found that or they wanted to find out what are the top player experience factors. And number one, you would have guessed, is course conditioning. And you know that well enough because that's where 30 or more % of your budget goes every season, right? So that's a huge expense point, and we always want to do more. Number two is playing partners. So very often, and hopefully the players can design that themselves and create their own happiness. And number three, in terms of experience factors, is pace of play. So that is top three experience factors for golfers that we as operators need to take heed. Golfers want us to do this well. And in terms of that is the golfer's perspective, but operators rank it even higher in terms of priorities. That 84% are saying it's a key priority to do better, right? And the beauty of this is that if you create a fantastic experience when it comes to pace and flow of play, there are opportunities to create more capacity, which is obviously a double win now, right? You've got happy golfers and you've got more rounds that you can sell. So happy golfers, good for business, revenue, good for business, right? So we want to show how to dig into that. One of the other research points that came from the USGA, actually done by the University of Wisconsin and headed up by a good friend of ours, Professor Chris Schoonover, who is the director of golf operations at the Erin Hills, and she was also heavily involved with the Women's Open that was played there just 3 months ago. And they did an extensive research study digging even deeper into the play experience, and they found that there's 1,000 touch points in the play experience, which sounds crazy, right? But even clicking online on your booking link, getting a confirmation email, driving through the gate, all of those are touch points, right? And they wanted to understand which ones are making an experience, which ones are neutral in the experience, which ones are absolutely breaking an experience. And they categorized that into perfect delighter, neutral, frustrator, and perfect frustrator. And what they found was that the top delight factors are pace related, who would have thought, and the top dissatisfiers are pace related, right? So it's the one thing that can make everyone's day if it's done well, or it just gets accepted. Hey, that's how it's supposed to be. But it'll absolutely break the experience if it's not done well. And the key challenge here is, according to players, corrective pace of play actions, right? So this is the grouchy marshal going over and saying, hey, you're slow. Get on with it, right? At the same time, other people's speed. If other people are slow and holding me up, that's ruining my day. And on the flip side, positive ranger etiquette and information provided about pace of play expectations via scorecard, golf card, starter, and so on. So 2 questions here for you. The first one, Craig, how do we do positive ranger etiquette if we can't say, hey guys, you're slow, get on with it? What's the better way to do that that you've
Well, firstly, we've renamed, the traditional old-fashioned marshal. We've renamed him a player assistant because that's what he's there to do. He's there to assist you in having a good time, but also get through the course effectively, right? And I think the second major thing is to change the approach. Instead of talking to slow play, talk to position. You're a bit out of position, and we want to get you back. Rather than calling someone slow. That's a very emotive word, and we, from our experience, not something people respond well to, me especially.
But you're never slow, so you've never been spoken to on a golf course like that, right? So
Sure. Never lost a ball.
slow is the forbidden word, right? But there's ways around it. It's just positioning. Hey, you're a bit out of position, or help me catch up half a hole, right? Those are things that players can compute. And then here's a wild guess why information provided about pace of play is deemed so important by players. It's the same reason. They don't think that they're slow, but they want that information out there for everyone else because they think everyone else is slow, right? So as a course operator, do that. Add it to your website, add it to your welcome or confirmation email, add it to your tee sheet. Everywhere you need to have information about your pace of play expectations, because the player thinks if you've got competency and you take care of that, that they're safe out there, right? They don't think that they're slow. It's not about them, it's about everyone else. But yeah, and obviously that's where data is important to help us understand who's slow, who's not. And it runs even deeper, right? The business impact of this is huge, right? So we've got a strategic partner in Players First. They do millions of post-round surveys, and they know exactly the trends of the golf industry overall, which we're going to talk to just now, but also what makes or breaks an experience. And they have a really high response rate. Obviously, they do a lot of private clubs, but also daily fee courses. And they found two things. So, firstly, if a round has good flow of play, the net promoter score is always good. Okay, there's nothing that you can do that will make that tank. But if a round has bad flow, the net promoter score around everything else that you've done hurts, right? Net promoter score, for those of you who don't know, you will know once I remind you, is the question of how likely are you to recommend this, whatever it is, golf course, hotel, airline, to your friends and family or colleagues out of 10, with 0 being never, worst thing ever, 10 being it's made my day, I trust them, I love them, right? So that's the net promoter score. And yeah, we can always learn from the customer, obviously, and we want to track that. And one of the other things that they've found out is that, yeah, you need to do a few things well as an operator. If players feeling welcome, there's good flow out on the golf course, and they meet on-course staff. That's when restaurants visits goes up, and the net promoter score is always really high. Now, net promoter score is a key indicator for repeat play and loyalty and return play, right? Whereas if players don't feel quite welcome, there's bad flow, they haven't met anyone out on the golf course to look after them, they're feeling left to their own devices, and it hasn't gone so well. Restaurant visits go down, we lose money, and the net promoter score goes really bad. Like so bad that they will say bad things, or they will 1-star rate you on Google, whatever it is, right? So it makes a lot of sense intrinsically. Craig, another question for you: that flow versus meet on-course staff. How can we build correlations around this?
Yeah, I think there are critical touch points on a golf course that make sense. You know, we prescribe set the expectation early philosophy, and then meet them again shortly thereafter. So what that may look like for your course is you've got somebody talking to pace of play and the expectations around blown pace on the tee box, and then you're meeting them again 2 or 3 holes later and showing them with the data that you have in your hand, that may be the Tagmarshal live dashboard on a tablet for a player assistant, and showing them how they're doing relative to their time. That's a really positive interaction if they're doing well. And if they're slightly out of position, well, it's easy to frame, you know, you guys are a little bit out of position, here's the data. And typically you can show them the impact you're having. And yeah, one of the things we do is when we do our assessments for a course at the end of their first season, or sometimes midway, we'll help them identify those optimal touch points. Those are points that really result in the best correction or a suitable place to have that interaction.
Yeah, and also remember, meet on-course staff doesn't mean send somebody over to glare at me to check if I'm slow, and then if I am, or maybe they think I am, and then shout at me, right? That's not what meeting on-course staff is. Meeting on-course staff is a value add. It's a service touch point, right? So that's again to the point that Craig made earlier. We've seen great success in reframing that marshal role to being a player assistant, and some courses call them course ambassador, right?
And maybe
yeah.
to add, some courses have come up with some really useful excuses to create those touch points, like cold towels, refilling sandbags, and in some instances, you know, meeting them with the drinks cart and the drinks lady. So, you know, there's really cool ways to make it not as obvious as perhaps I outlined it to be. and you can get creative. But each of those opportunities is an opportunity to delight, and the data shows that it's really important that that you're doing that if you're trying to drive return visits.
100%. And yeah, to that point, golf actually has a way to go when it comes to that. So this data is more broad-based, where players first are now official partners of the National Golf Foundation, the NGF, and they're obviously the custodians of all data in golf. And they show that yeah, the Net Promoter Score for daily fee golf in the US from 2018 to 2024 is actually starting to get a bit worse, right? Even though we've had such major influx of new players and COVID has gifted everybody full tee sheets, and we've got more players joining in from Topgolf and so on. So we're in a fantastic position from a demand perspective, but the Net Promoter Score overall is actually on the decline, and that is something that we need to work hard on investing. And if we want to do that, we need to do the things that really matter to players, and that pace and flow of play question is certainly right at the top of that list, and it's so controllable. Like, it's so easy to do this well. But yeah, to the point of what is this worth to the business? So even the team at Pinehurst have achieved a +12 and a +20 Net Promoter Score. And this is incredible, right? You would normally have to spend literally millions in upgrading your service levels, your service staff, your clubhouse, your course, everything that you do to get that level of improvement. And they did it just by digging into their on-course operations and making things run better for their golfers and having clear communication around it, expectation setting around it, and making sure that every round works as intended. So this is huge for their business, and it's huge for any business to have this sort of updraft. Okay, let's dig into some of the results. What's it worth to you, and what's the big deal, right? So here's some courses. The one is actually down the road from you here, Austin. I think Woodbridge. It's not even an hour away from your HQ. So they have seen a 19-minute reduction, and then I'll do an average round time of 3:53, right? So sub 4 hours. And look, I'm not a proponent of we need to have 4 hour rounds. Like, you can play an amazing round at Erin Hills, and it's exactly 5 hours long, and it's the best golf you'll ever play. It's because it's a hugely long course and it's tricky to play, and you're going to walk it. But in this case, that's where they ended up. And Franklin Burgess in Tennessee, Brooks, the owner there, is well known in the National Golf Course Owners Association as a board member. They're really dialing into this, and they've in their first season gone 16 minutes faster, and then I'll play at 3:55. So you can already see if we're gaining 19 minutes, 16 minutes, that sounds a little bit like interval. Yeah, there might be 2 tee times in that already, just from a time gain, right? But the impact is that now you have basically 80% of your rounds on pace, where before that was 57%, which also meant that almost 40% weren't on pace, right? So that's a huge gain overall for all the golfers that are going through. And in Franklin Bridge's case, that's 50,000 rounds, right? So that's a lot of happiness that we're creating just by focusing on that. And that's worth a lot to their business and the repeat and returns play. And yeah, what's it worth in terms of dollars? Yeah, Craig, I know that you've worked with Jim and the team for many years. Just tell us a bit about their revenue impact from a greens perspective.
Well, I think you're picking the top of the crop here, Bodo. So, for them, they charge significant dollars to play their course, and they can charge that because they're a premium resort venue, right? But if you add it all up, for on a busy day where you've got 4 players in a 4-ball, and you're able to create a 4-ball or 2 at the type of dollars that they can charge, when you extrapolate that through their season, that's material for them. But not only are those players paying extra green fees, but they're also visiting their hotel and eating out of their restaurants, etc. But I think, Bodo, what's maybe more important is that we have seen these results in middle of the run courses in the US as well, where it seems like a no-brainer that Aaron can earn this type of return on a well-managed course. There are others that do it exceptionally well, and they're the sort of $40 to $50 green fee opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously the majority, but look, even if you break down their $300 green fee over 80, right? You still and you add the cart fees and so on, you're still talking about $200,000 gain, right? If you turned Erin Hills into a 65 cart municipal course tomorrow, that would be the impact, right? It's still material, but we'll talk to some actual more relatable. Thanks, Craig, for reminding me. More relatable case studies. Okay, so increasing tee sheet capacity with smart gap intervals. So now that we've learned that, hey, pace is kind of a big deal, and we can reposition it so that the players can compute, and what can it do if we do it well to our business and net promoter score? Let's look at some of the strategies: smart gap intervals and variable goal times. Yeah, another amazing golf course here. Who picks these photos? It's Terence, I want to invite you because yeah, before we can talk about gap intervals and variable goal times, which we'll dig into in just a minute, we need to make sure that we have control over what's happening on our golf course. And one of the best ways to do that is to really have a live oversight of what's happening that is intelligent and that gives you the ability to live proactively manage. Terence, I don't know if you can take over the wheel here for a minute, and I will allow you to present. You can show us what that looks like in Tagmarshal's world and just talk to that for a moment.
All right.
Can
you see that, Bodo?
There we go. Where are we?
All right, we're at Dumbarton Links right now. So you can see they're very, very busy. Courses covered at the moment. This is all the basic information that you can get on the dashboard, which is quite a lot, actually. We can see at a glance all of our tags, where they're at out on the course in an active round. We can see the different color codes for what we need to focus on. We have a lot of green, which is great, but we want to make sure that we stay in front of that. So we can see for our daily average that we are ahead of pace on our goal time, but we do have a few groups, especially on the back nine or the second nine, depending on your preference, for holes 10 through 18 that may need to be addressed. We have seen in the data that if you do not get to a group by the 6th or 7th hole in their round, typically it becomes significantly more difficult to get them back in position and back ahead of pace. So really focusing on these groups and having multiple touch points throughout their round really helps to promote not only them staying on pace, but a healthy gapping as well. So we can see with number one is currently seen as a delayer, as they were on hole 5 green before and potentially backing up hole number 2 or group number 2 there. So if we want to look, sometimes we don't want to immediately go out and start to address the groups without having the data to back it up. So I would want to look at number 1 and see if one of our player assistants have already gone out. So we can see, I'm not going to necessarily be able to just decipher this, but this is from our starter, but we can see that potentially a player assistant has not gone out and interacted with that group. So I would want to communicate, we need to go talk to group number 1 and then log the interaction with that. Let's get them back into position and ahead of time. So that would be a focus for the front 9. And then of course the back 9 would really need to see where we want to focus at. And then as you can tell, this gives us a good look with the gap time monitor of positionally where everybody's at. Each one of these boxes represents the tees, fairway, and green zone areas, and gives us some information as well that we can see at a glance when hovering over. Bodo, you got anything else we want to cover here?
Yeah, Craig, what from a live management point of view, what are some of the other considerations that you would add here to Terence's introduction?
So I think it's really important to know your golf course, right? You've got to understand its rhythm and flow. So juxtapositioning this live map with your understanding of how things flow on your course is important. And you can't just do that off the bat. You need to record data, right? And I know we go into it a bit later, but I would be looking at obviously Terence has highlighted the guys on the first 9, but I would also be looking at the guys once they do their turn, how they're doing, and you can see most of the back 9 is off pace. So immediately I'm thinking, what's happening at halfway? Yeah, or is our food and beverage running properly? Because why is everyone on the back blind slow? And then I'm also saying, where are my marshals? And I can see we've got a marshal out on the sort of bottom right of the course. I think that's hole 13. Okay, great. Where the rest? And the other marshals on the 3rd hole. That's obviously a critical touch point for them. So they're doing their job, but maybe I want to get them a little bit more active around the turn to make sure guys are getting through. So yeah. And you can really drill into that if you're opening up the sidebar on the right there. You can see where people are falling behind, and you can see the interactions that your marshal team are having with them.
Nice. I think just so you understand the lay of the land, so it's extremely important for the team at Ambani to do this well. One of the reasons is that they get a lot of golfers that want to play both the Orcos at St Andrews and Ambani on the same day, or vice versa, right? So if things go 45 minutes over, that's going to make a major dent into those guys' golf tours, right? And obviously, they're also in the business of selling rounds. So if they can manage things well, which we're going to get to now, how can they create more capacity over and above keeping their golfers happy? So I'm going to take over the wheel again here, Terence, if you don't mind, so that we can dig into some of the additional considerations. Okay, so we always like to think at what happens out on the golf course as the economic engine of your business, right? So I'm German, and you can curse me here, but a golf course is a factory, right? And we need to optimize the throughput, and we need to optimize the quality of the output, and we want to reduce any sort of downtime in our factory. That's how it is, right? And if the quality output is high, then we can charge higher rates. And if there's downtime and if there's wastage, well, that's bad for our business, right? So if you look at it that way, well, now we're thinking, how can we optimize what we do out there? Because obviously our goal is to create the best possible experience and to build fantastic relationships with our golfers. But from a business standpoint, it's an engine. And we have a start point and an end point in our day, and we have a certain amount of capacity that we can accommodate and that we can service. Craig, talk to us a little bit about some of the considerations here, and why the industry has traditionally had a very flat approach to thinking about that.
Yeah, I think most people like to keep things simple. And I think historically speaking, people realize how important flow and pace of play is. And they are trying to pick the interval that works for them in a simple way across their entire day. And, even to the extent where people realize, wait time on tee boxes is negative and impacts people's intent to return, they're trying to find a gap time between, or an interval time that reduces that as much as they can. But oftentimes they're doing it at the detriment of the rest of their economics, right? And that is where we are saying if you have an understanding of your course, you have good live management, you really don't need to be applying a flat opportunity. In the first example there, with a flat 10-minute gap time, you're generating 54 tee times in a day. Well, and we're going to show you now why and how. If you get a little bit creative and you start to move your gap times up or down, in the morning, we all know as operators that the head of your snake, the first couple of people that go off in the morning, set the pace. Well, why not incentivize them to play faster and use an incentive method? We call it fast lane golf, and set a faster goal time for them in the mornings. And if you do that, and we'll get into it in the next few slides, because these people are playing faster, they're covering ground faster, you can actually make the interval between the start times narrower. And you do that for a few start times. And as you sort of get into your day and things start to mature, you may want to use that time and reward the guys that are teeing off in the mid-morning, when it traditionally slows down a little bit more, by widening your interval to 11 minutes. And then, maybe in the afternoon, you speed things up again. And in knowing the data and the flow of your course, you can accurately apply this type of strategy. Well, you're going from 54 to 57 times, tee times. That's a positive impact of 3. And then, by really adding the additional oversight and the touch points we talked to, and honing in on your strategy, maybe that means you can do it even more. In the last example there, we're going to 8-minute intervals in the morning, which generates an additional 2 tee times. So there's not one size that fits all for every course, and you've got to really work hard to get to the third example. But with proactive management and understanding your course, it very much has been proven to be possible, and we've got people doing a really good job at that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to add to this, obviously we've all seen back in the day, one of the business models was like, well, how can we get as many people out there as possible on the 1 or 2 days a week where we're busy, right? And then reducing your intervals to 7 minutes. It works for a short period, but then your golf course will freeze up and it'll be a car park, right? And you get a bad reputation and you're killing your business. So that is not what we're advocating at all, but that you need to understand the data, and then you will see the opportunities that you can free up, both with proactive live management and understanding the data, and dialing into these opportunities. And here's an example, right? So if we can generate five extra tee times and there's a reasonable take up of those, $75, that's $360,000 gained, right? And you must remember that your fixed cost to open your doors and run your golf course is virtually the same. It's like an aeroplane that's now added 5 more rows of seats. The fixed cost is the same. Obviously, we don't want to do it at the detriment of everyone else. With an airplane, you add 5 more rows of seats, everyone else has got less legroom. We don't have to do that. And that's the beauty of proactive management with data. And here's an example that is where Craig reminds me that, hey, Erin Hills, they can print money, right? Hey, but this is Willow Springs, right? You've never heard of them outside Baltimore. They were $1 million annual revenue operation, and through some smart technology implementation and some astute management, they managed to get that up by 50%. So another 50% overlay, all of a sudden they're $1.5 million revenue business. And it doesn't cost $499,000 to do that, right? There is huge upside to that. And that's what we want to show you. And the green fees dollars, where they're straight bottom line or very, very attractive from a margin point of view, that excludes your clubhouse food and beverage spend. That all comes with that additional footfall, right? But the key is, how can we make sure that things work and that everyone else is happy too? So let's talk a little bit about the logic of how can we reduce the intervals? And this is yeah, it's a very simple, like if you're running your course at 4 hour 20 goal time, a 10-minute interval will get players on average to a certain position of their tee, of the landing zone, right? And that is how you can you create a reasonable gap between the groups. Now, if we are tightening that goal time and we're playing the course 3 hours 40, quite a bit faster, all of a sudden the players have moved off, right? And there's a bit more space. So now after 10 minutes, they are actually another 100 yards down, right? So we can now actually reduce that. And if we're running a 3:30 goal time, we can safely trim the interval to 8 minutes. So that's in practice what happens. But how do you know? How do you know how fast the golf course can play, right? And what's reasonable, right? And what's reasonable versus the play volume, versus the weather, and versus the setups. So this is exactly the data that we're talking about, and the interval, sorry, and the information, the variables that we're trying to dig into. And I'm going to ask Craig to help us make sense of some of these graphs. I have warned you all, he's a data nerd, but he also can help all of us make sense of these graphs very quickly. So what are we looking at?
Yeah, just to give you the ins and outs. So the vertical axis tells you how many groups are teeing off in a time quadrant in the day. So on the horizontal axis, you've got between 7 and 8, just over 25 groups teeing off in the morning in the first chart, Bodo. As that progresses through the day, you see there's more people playing between 7 and 8 a.m. And as it goes through the day, you see the rhythm and flow in terms of the number of groups that are teeing off. And this is making sense to a lot of people because you have a morning field that sort of builds before 7 and the next 3 hours is very busy. And that's when your course is congested. And that is oftentimes where your flow and pace of play might start to deteriorate. And that's what this data is showing us. So people teeing off between 8 and 9, 9 and 10, and lastly, between 10 and 11 are red. And if I draw your attention to the pace distribution key on the right, red means their round is 40 minutes or more off pace. So looking at the data for this particular course, you can see they have a challenge in their morning field, and they really have to consider strategies to alleviate this. The right-hand graph shows this in a different way, but it says the same thing, right? It's just telling you the average round time for that segment of the day. And you can see between 10 and 11, the average round time is 5 hours and 13 minutes. And this is a significant challenge for these guys. They're a busy golf course, right? But they're serving up experiences that are going to result in sort of low net promoter scores versus the guys that are teeing off a little bit earlier and playing nice and quickly. So I think the next slide, Bodo, really speaks to the strategy that they employed and how that drove faster times over time. So I don't know if you want to talk to it or do you want me to?
Yeah, this is basically the same graph or data shown in a different way, right? You've got your start time, early day, people playing 3 hours 26, and at the worst time of day, the course slows down to 5 hours 13, and in between that afternoon, things are a bit speedier, not quite as busy, and yeah, so how can we make sense of this, right? And the thickness of the graph here shows how many players are out, and you can see that it's not quite as busy this time of day. So this is your problem that has been established. So, but what they've done is, and we can flick to the next slide here, is yeah, and obviously with the guidance from our team, they have brought some controls into that. Craig, talk to us about the red line. What's that all about?
Yeah, so the red line is the goal time that they set on their tee box and through the day or through that time period for the groups that are teeing off. So you can see what they did is, and they realized that groups in the morning are playing faster. And when they started this, they were running intervals that were flat 8-minute intervals. They realized that because they're playing faster, we can probably squeeze some time out of that time cohort and we can give it to the afternoon. I call this the Robin Hood strategy, right? So they went from 4 minutes to 4:20 as a goal time, and then they went even as high as 4:30 as a goal time. And what they did was, because they had gained some additional time in the morning by having 7-minute intervals because people were playing faster, they widened it in the 7 to 8:30 and 8:30 to 11 cohorts. They went back to 8 between 7 and 8:30, and then they went to 9. And they put proactive strategies in place. Those strategies we talked to earlier about, having interventions on the golf course with players who are out of position, and also creating expectations around how quick people should be playing on a golf course. And yeah, this effectively is what it looks like in our system. We have a variable goal time mechanism that allows you to set up different goal times for different parts of the day. As Bodo's showing you here, the 3 different goal times that are able to set up, you're able to set up. In fact, in our system, you can set up as many as you like, but we try and keep things simple. So that's a good way that allowed this team to actually measure the performance of their field through the course of the day versus the goal time that they had selected for those time cohorts. And I think the next slide, Bodo, then talks to the results that they were able to get. Yes, so in year 1, you can see is that 5 hour 13 sort of average that they were achieving. Year 2, after implementing these strategies, we recorded significantly better average round times in the middle of the day, and the green depicts the time saving. Now, it's quantifiable to see the result of that. You can measure it in your Net Promoter Score, but you can also measure it in the amount of time that these golfers had after their round to spend in the restaurants and in the shops at their facility. So that the difference between 4 hours 30 and 5 hours 12 is 40 minutes. That's a big chunk of time that you have to give back to those players.
And further to that, this course happens to have a sort of a bit of a wind down in the afternoon, but there are many courses where this trend continues throughout the day until the day quietens down, right? So you're actually causing a problem for basically half of your players out there, and this is a huge improvement, right? It's more than 40 minutes gained, and that is why and how the course was then able to add more capacity. And yeah, and this principle has made it all the way to Pebble Beach, right? So one of the key things is proactive management, but also proactive communication around this, right? Expectation setting. So Pebble Beach is a notoriously difficult course to play. Also, you want to take 100 photos when eventually you do get out there, and it's not an optimal design either, right? From a pace management point of view. We would probably want to redesign it a bit to make it more efficient, but it is what it is, right? So, but what they're doing is they put this on their website, right? The expectations, if you got an earlier round, we want you to play to 4:15, and then later in the day, you can see it's a sort of gradual decrease in goal time. We have many courses where it might go quick in the morning. The first 8 tee times, fast angle off, play this course in 3 hours 30. We know that can be done, and we know that many of you want that. Then we're going to play 4:10, and then we go back down to 4 hours, right? So you can design that, but the data has to lead it can't be anecdotal and the way that we want it or head of finances wants it. It has to be led by data, right? And you can only do it if you get the three things right: be led by data, communicate well around it, and have proactive management. So yeah, what's the big deal, right? So here's another golf course that has done that, and then the impact at the operation was almost 30 minutes, and the majority of their rounds are now on pace or within 10 minutes of pace, where historically half of the golf course was slow, right? And that's a huge impact on, I mean, the amount of unhappiness that you have to mop up as an operator, if that's what things look like on a busy day, is immense. The amount of management effort to try and fix that afterwards, when the phone rings and people saying, "I want my money back," is immense. So the amount of effort it takes to proactively set these things up is actually much lower, and the results are huge that you can generate. Okay. We obviously have much more information on that, but we do need to keep to our timing. So we want to scoot through the last section, executing the foundation for dynamic pricing. We're hoping that a lot of you, if not all of you, have started dialing into dynamic pricing. We're in a fantastic environment now where we have such high demand on our golf. We have to dial into that. It's a key principle to optimize. But here's two data points that I'd like you to consider. One, golf is now younger than it's been since Tigermania, right? The biggest cohort in golf now is 18 to 34-year-olds. Now, these guys often come from Topgolf. They're also used to Uber, DoorDash, Amazon Prime, same-day deliveries, right? So their willingness to be patient is low. Also, this is that 30 to 40 bracket is when people have start families, right? So time is at a premium, and there's a reason why the under 40s are willing to pay up to 25% more. 23% of under 40s are willing to pay 25% more for a faster round of golf. Why? Because time is at a premium. And the reason they often don't play is because they don't have the time. Well, if we can give them a 3 out of 30 round, they say, yes, take my money. Take more of my money, right? 36% are willing to pay 20% more. So it's a key variable in your dynamic pricing strategy, right? If you can say, we will give you a 3 out of 30 round, the first 5 tee times, 6 tee times, not just the first out, call it fast staying golf, you will attract those players, right? And they will say, yes, take my money. The other reason why it's important if you want to run dynamic pricing is, sure, $60 green fee standard. Now we're charging $110 for the 8 a.m. tee time because that is the one that everyone wants to get. High demand, the prices shoot up. If somebody is not served well and the experience isn't great on the golf course and the pace doesn't work, they are twice as aggrieved, right? Because they pay double, right? On the flip side, if things go well, there's happiness and you get positive ratings and high intent to return. So it has to work hand in hand. And here's an example of a course. Again, this is not Erin Hills. This is a municipal course that you've never heard of in Auburn, Michigan. And they have added dynamic pricing, proactive management, additional tee times capacity through management with Tagmarshal, 1.8 million in green fees over 3 years gained. So this is a huge gain. So they've almost doubled their business since the inception of those strategies and Tagmarshal. And what Chip is saying is dynamic pricing and 5-hour rounds don't mix well. We had to focus on pace, and that's where Tagmarshal is crucial, hitting the nail on the head from a revenue perspective. So they said, fantastic, let's dial into dynamic pricing. We have the demand, but we have to execute on the experience so that we can justify those prices that we're asking for. And because they're getting it right every time, people are happy to come back. And they come back and play there and complain about how bad the pace is at the club down the road. And that they'd happily pay another $30, $40 just to have the certainty that it'll be a good round. And that's what it's worth to them. Like, it's huge business impact. So we mentioned the proactive, accurate pace management. One of the things to remember is that a system is only as good as the data, and we have what, about 20 or so integrations now with T-Sheets, Golf Weather, Golf Genius, so that we can integrate into existing ecosystem, and the systems can share data between each other so that you have efficiencies. So we know exactly who the players out there are. You can address them by name. You can build player profiles. If you have post-round queries, they can be addressed based on that. And then a system needs to, like for any technology to be good, it needs to take things off your plate, right? It needs to make things more intuitive and easier and smarter workflows so that you can do what you're best at as a person, which is create experiences for golfers and build relationships. So one of those features that we know works really well when it comes to proactive management is that pace disruptors feature. Craig, tell us, yeah, just very briefly what the logic is behind that and why it's so successful.
Yeah, I think Terence spoke to in the color coding of the icons earlier. Purple meaning you're out of position and you're delaying people. But sometimes the criteria you may set on what matters for you as a course is different to, just being 1 or 2 minutes off out of position. So we give the tools to the operators to define those, and then they are actually notified when a group gets, say for example, they want to be they're 10 minutes behind goal time, and they're 10, and there's 10 groups behind them. That might be 10 would be too many, but that might be a time they want to be notified. Well, the system's going to notify them automatically. So they know who is really problematic, and they know exactly where to go to. So you're taking the job of the marshal who's watching the system and identifying these, and you're giving it to the machine, and the machine's doing it for you.
And maybe to add to that, the two-way system, which is a GPS screen on the cart, does exactly that. It's an extension of this logic, and then it tells the players, hey, you're out of position by 5 minutes. Please catch up, and the player needs to confirm, and then it keeps them compliant. And some of that data we dug into earlier is part of that sort of normal for us back of house sort of data stack that you can use in management. And one of the items that we know operators always get excited about is really understanding the hole by hole runtime, which is over here. And then that's broken down into tee box wait times, time on fairway, time on green. So you can really understand how's the hole running versus how we thought it might run. And we think of Tagmarshal as an incremental improvement machine, right? I say that all the time because improvement's incremental, right? 1 or 2 minutes saved at 5 or 6 holes, boom, you've got 20 minutes saved, right? And sometimes it takes small adjustments on the golf course, or it takes an easier or sometimes even a harder pin placement, right? Sometimes you need to buy time for a difficult hole and make the hole ahead a bit harder, make the rough a bit deeper to buy time for the hole ahead. But you can only understand that truly once you have data. And it's our job, obviously, to deliver that, but also make it easy for you to learn how to use it. And that's where, Terence and the team are so critical. And one of the other things is, well, live data, great. Weekly data, great. What about our season? And you can see this course is playing 3 hours 20 first hour of the day, then 3 hours 40. So we can really start to see the opportunities around setting these variable goal times. And the more data you have, the better you can work with it. And the results, yes, it's Cascade Hills is 3 hours 45 minutes. That's a fantastic season for them, right? All their golfers are happy. They communicate that results well, but also the expectations, and that means business for days. And sometimes the whole breakdown needs to be adjusted a little bit. And obviously the system allows for that, so it can run even more accurately. Terence, just getting back to you, because you work a lot with the various courses. Tell us a bit about goal setting and how does it work and why that's important.
Thanks, Bono. Yeah, for goal setting, you can set individual goals for each day if you prefer, especially if you have a holiday day that you'd want to set up, or tournaments or outings, anything like that. But we also have weekly goal settings as well, that you can define for your weekdays versus your weekends, things like that. And this is just really a way for you as an operator and a manager to kind of set some goals for your team, and also, hold them accountable as well for your player assistants, your starters. So as you can see, we have our interventions and check-ins. Those are those player notes that we saw in the sidebar, and those can be considered, a check-in if they're ahead of pace and it's a positive interaction, an intervention if they're, behind, out of position, and it's kind of a correction, right? And so we set goals for that as to, how many groups do we want to have addressed for the day? How many interactions do we want for the weekday or the weekend, as that can vary significantly depending on your play. And then also we want to see the percentages of that. How many of those interventions were successful? Did they come back into play, and back into position? And what's a realistic percentage of that? You may not get 100% every single day. 85%, 90%, 75% may be more realistic for your course and flow. And you'll have a much better idea of what works for your course, as you go. And again, you can set your player assistants accountable to give them a goal of, if you set 60 interactions a day and you have 3 assistants, give them a benchmark of 20 interactions a day during their shift. So
Yeah,
that's basic idea.
yeah, absolutely. And remember when we spoke about the Net Promoter Score earlier, feeling welcome, good pace and flow of play, meet on-course staff, that's where your check-ins come in, right? So those check-ins are never wasted. A little playing tip, tell them about the specials at the grill, the specials in the pro shop. All of those check-ins go a long way in players feeling looked after out on the golf course. And then you have a much higher chance of those interventions, hey, get back in position, help us out, sticking. Okay, we are on time here at the end of it, and yeah, Tagmarshal obviously tracks those interactions. We also have a track map that every single round that was played has a history, and we can show the pace profile of the round, who was in the round, were there any geofence breaches, did they misbehave, where were the interactions had, because sometimes we know that you get a week later, you get an email, hey, I played a 5-hour round at your course the other day, our group paid $400, we want our money back. Well, how do you defend that, right, if you don't have data? So that's where the track map really comes in handy. You can then see, hey, what was your tee time? Let's look at the data and send it back to the players. Yeah, and just lastly on the dynamic pricing, yeah, the research shows that on the hour tee times always fetch the highest. So if you can consider anchoring your tee time design around exact 8 a.m., right? 8 a.m. fetches more than 8:02, right? So start there and then build it before and after in line with your optimal intervals. And yeah, like Craig was saying, fast lane golf is great. Start your day quicker, advertise it, find the right players that want to play like that, and especially younger players want to add. Yeah, they want to get out there and be quick about it, get back to their families, right? Give them that, and be consistent, and then you will have very happy golfers for a long time. And then also listen, right? So with our system, you can get feedback straight after the round or after the front nine, right? How's your round going so far? How did you raise your round? Leave a comment so that if there's something amiss, something didn't work out, you can immediately react, and work with the players. So yeah, just to close out quickly, what we want is happier golfers, right? And the pace is central to the enjoyment, top 3 factor. We want to earn the right to higher pricing. So we need to make sure that our factory works and there's quality output all the time and there's consistency, right? And then more capacity is a straight bottom line gain. So Another three tea times is not just another three burgers sold, right? It's not just another three shirts sold. Like this is really, really attractive margins, and it drives the bus because the burgers and the shirts and the caps come alongside that, right? So it makes a big difference to your business, and it pays you back in many ways, including happier golfers, loyalty, net promoter score going up, and then dollars to pay for all your efforts handsomely. One other consideration to get more capacity is double T starts. We've got a number of partners who do that sometimes on a seasonal basis, sometimes as standard. It's not for everyone, right? If you have questions around that, I would like to. We built a bit of a matrix that can help you establish how much you can gain in terms of inventory. Reach out to us, and we're happy to share that with you. And then another easy way to offset some costs and also make some more revenue is of advertising, right? Because you're used to getting ads in, and again, we're making that easy because we've got our own media network that will bring you advertisers to on a revenue share basis. You don't have to look after that, and you can do your job that you're really good at and leave that to our media team. Yeah, so excited that we got through so much content, and thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them through. I know that a few questions have been answered on the go. I'm happy to answer any questions. Put them in the chat in the Q&A. While we wait for questions, Craig, any other thoughts to consider that you want to impart?
No, I think it's really about starting the journey and understanding your course first and foremost, and then looking at ways to incrementally improve. And the results are meaningful, right? As we've shown, not everybody's course is the same, and everybody's got to sort of understand where they can dial those needles up. Sorry, those dials up. Needles, funny. Yeah, the most important thing is to start thinking about it so that you can benefit from strategies like this.
Terence, maybe a question for you. Like, how quickly do you generally, when you implement a new course partner with them training and getting going, how quickly do you see improvements normally?
Yeah, sometimes it's as early as the first month. I mean, just being able to have their players and their staff see the data in real time. A lot of these courses have an idea of their pace information, what's going on along the course and all that. But once the system's actually in place and we're giving them good data, it's a game changer for them, just because they can now pinpoint where they need to focus. They can see real-time numbers where they see they're actually faster than they thought they were or slower than they thought they were, and they can focus a lot more on that. So yeah, I mean, it could be as early as within a month.
Nice. And yeah, we always say it's like you have Google Maps on your phone, right? Or use a paper map, right? So once you work with Google Maps, you will never delete that app and go back to paper maps. It's just not possible because it gives you that real-time information on traffic and a quick way to get from A to B. And it's the same with the Tagmarshal on your golf course as an operation. We know that the live map screen is always critical, right? And you want to know your tee sheet, you want to know point of sale data, and you want to know what's happening out on your golf course. And the nice thing is you can pull this up on your phone, right? We have operators managing their course and holding their team accountable from being on golf tour somewhere else, right? It's like, hey guys, what's going on hole 18 or no, on hole 15? How did you know? Well, pull it up on my phone. It's a good party trick too, apparently. Yeah, thanks everyone for. I'm seeing no questions come in. So if you have questions, send them through. We'll make sure you get your PDR credits. We hope you found this interesting. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to share. Also, take a look at the data if you have any, and if you want to learn anything about this, feel free to reach out. We're here to help you. Craig, thanks so much. Terence, thanks so much. And Austin, thanks for sticking around with us. I hope you learned something too here. And
absolutely, really appreciate it. Appreciate your support and partnership. And yeah, never seems to amaze me that just how much attention you guys pay to each unique course and how not only the data comes together, but how it applies to the different facilities. So really, really good stuff.
Thanks, appreciate it. All right, thanks everybody. Have a fantastic rest of the week and a busy golf weekend ahead. And we hope to chat to you all soon.